TV5 News at 9. This is so exciting. We are celebrating women making history right here in mid-Michigan this month, including one woman who created a program dedicated to helping former inmates. Now, here to tell us more about her are local authors Joan and Dr. Craig Douglas. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Of course. We are so excited about this. Now, you both have worked with Sister Marietta for a number of years and wrote a book about her work, including creating Emmaus House. Can you tell us a little bit more about Sister Marietta and how she came about in Saginaw? A little bit about her?
Well, Sister Marietta was a person that we had heard speak at an awards luncheon, and she was receiving an award that day, in fact. And she was so impressive with her very, very humble manner, her direct approach. And so after we congratulated her, and she was talking to us about retiring and said, I could use you to help us at Emmaus House and volunteer. And within 2 weeks, I received a handwritten letter from her with her phone number, and she was anticipating my phone call. And that began our connection and our history at Emmaus.
Well, tell us about how she started this wonderful program.
Right?
Well, she observed women coming out of jail locally here in Saginaw that really had nowhere to go. In fact, I believe one had contacted her for a ride, and she literally picked her up on a street corner, and the lady wanted to be dropped off in another street corner. And I think that was the light bulb that went off, and Sister said, this is not right. We need to provide a place for women coming out of jail, prison, and rehab.
Oh, we love it. She sounds like a real trailblazer. Tell us more about Sister Marietta. What are some of her philosophies and beliefs?
She has some rather interesting philosophies in that in one of the chapters, the opening question is, Sister, will I go to hell? And that question came from a former inmate. And Sister's philosophy was that these women had suffered so much emotional and physical abuse here on earth that our God, our kind and merciful and forgiving God, would not have them suffer beyond death. Quite an interesting philosophy that we do get into a little bit in the book. And she herself, she often used the phrase the revolving door, and as Craig said, she really felt it was everybody's business to stop people from suffering and from repeating those same errors over and over again, because then it becomes multi-generational. And she would share stories about having a mother at one time at Emmaus and then greeting her daughter in the next generation. Not a happy story. Happy that she could perhaps be that intervention that would help both of them, but that wasn't always the case. And the recidivism was very high, and it is high at times. And so it is a challenge. It is a challenge for our new leadership, Donna and Jen, who are doing a great job. But I'm sure Sister feels that the program is in good hands, and that was my goal. Coming in kind of in the in-between with Sister retiring and then trying to really embrace new and productive leadership. And filling her shoes has been quite a task.
I am sure it has. You know what? We can just hear from how wonderful she is and kind-hearted that Sister Marietta's work is going to really have a lasting legacy here in Saginaw. Tell us about that.
Well, I think the joy is in the success stories. The women that are in Emmaus House and are able to attend Delta College, for example, and become trained and skilled in areas of high need, and then can be deployed into the local economy. Colette, the cost for incarcerating in Michigan on average is $35,000 a year. So if we're able to redirect these women from going back into jail, prison, or rehab, there's a tremendous economic plus for the region, and then the success stories that are able to connect with our local economy only add value to the quality of life in our region.
It sure is such a big plus. And Joan, you know, you were the interim director of Emmaus House for a while. Why did you take on that role, and how did Sister Marietta actually inspire you to continue her work?
Well, it was called Step Up, or I think Step Down. We were challenged with some leadership, as I mentioned earlier, and because I had been a volunteer and was aware of the day-to-day operations and things that needed to happen, it seemed a likely fit. My goal was always, of course, that it was interim, it was temporary. I did not see myself in long term, but I stayed. We did the search. We had some trial and error. And eventually it started to promote from within, because at the time I was there, Donna was House 1 manager. House 1 is the Emmaus House, and that's kind of the headquarters, if you will, of the organization. And as I watched her work and as I watched her leadership grow, and she a former teacher, and she could get things in tow and just do a great job, I really felt she was the new face of Emmaus. And so that's when I stepped down. But we were talking a little bit about some of the success stories, and if I could share one from when I was an interim director. One of the chapters in our book is called Tequila's Story. I don't know how well it shows up, but Tequila's story is quite a remarkable one, having come off the streets of Flint for over 20 years, and I'm confident that she's happy to let me share the story. Very quickly, I had not worked in over 20 years, but since coming to Emmaus, I have maintained employment. I've been encouraged when I was down, encouraged to face my fears, and encouraged to be a better person. At one time, I had no hope because I was living a life with no meaning. Today, I am hopeful that my life will always have meaning.
Oh, that's powerful. Oh, my goodness. And you know what? And that goes right into my next question. What made you to decide to write this book? And I'm sure it's because of stories like that, to share the inspiration and to give people hope that you can do it, you can make it.
Well, I'll take that one, Colette. We wanted to write the book to honor Sister Marietta and her, and to highlight the uniqueness of the Emmaus House. A friend who teaches at Carlton Elementary School, Kate Dupas, and one time Kate said to me, you know, this program is so unique, you need to tell the story. We listened to her, and so we're trying in our small way to tell the story. And as Joan has described, once we've gotten involved, we've gotten heavily involved.
And you know, this book isn't just about Sister Marietta. It's also about, like you just shared with us, that testimonial from some of those who have enjoyed being there. But it's also about, you know, Saginaw and fun times here in Saginaw. Explain to us something about that, about why you decided to add that in there as well.
Well, I'll say this, the region is unique because we're close to the expressway, and we attract guests from literally all over the state. And that's partially because the program is so unique. And by word of mouth, officials know of the excellence of the program, and they'll make referrals from downstate all the way to the bridge and into the Upper Peninsula. So it does enrich our area, and it provides a quality of life that's very, very important to both of us being residents right here in Carlton.
And it includes her stories from her time here in Saginaw as well. So we love to know about that. Anything you want to share about that part?
Well, she was just a really active person, often speaking at different banquets, and as I said, honorary luncheons, often at United Way. She had a face, an embodiment. I think, again, our fear was that upon her retirement and returning to Cincinnati, we wanted to spread the story. And I think I should take a quick second and explain, too, that any of the proceeds, all proceeds from the book, go directly to Emmaus House. This was a gift, not anything to pad our retirement, I guess. But just so happy that people are starting to embrace it. And that's our mission, that we want to continue to find funding and to keep Emmaus House strong financially into the future.
Well, we certainly have been blessed by your words and appreciate you calling in to share this with us. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can read more about Sister Marietta's legacy in Saginaw in the Douglas's book. You can find a link to that in the hot link section of WNEM.com.